Welcome, everybody, to the Unquestionably Raw podcast. Tonight, we are going through the Western Conference, kind of some surprises and disappointments for each team. But first, I want to kind of memorialize one of the best broadcasters, sideline reporters, sports has ever seen in Craig Sager. So, condolences to his family, all the colleagues, sports fans everywhere that we all lost a good guy and a great analyst, by far. Cancer is just taken so many people, throughout the years. And, Craig was just an exceptional guy. So condolences to his family and, everybody that was grateful to have Craig in his life, or in their lives. So but getting started, we're going to look at the Golden State Warriors to start things off. And Matt, I'm going to start with you with the Warriors.
All right.
Surprise or disappointment or both, whatever you got.
I've actually got two for this one. Surprise, I'm going to go with JaVale McGee. I think they've done a nice job of resurrecting his career. And what they've done well with him, they're putting him in a position to succeed. They're not asking him to do too much. Rebound, protect the rim, catch lobs, and make dunks and layups. So I think – and he's done a fabulous job. We saw it last night with the 17 points, and I think he only played like 15 minutes or something. He was fantastic. And I think the only problem, sometimes they force it to him to throw that lob, which causes some turnovers, mishandles of the ball. But I think they'll figure that one out. And my disappointing, and this is going to come to a shock for everybody, it's not Steph Curry per se, specifically his game. It's his open three-point shooting has not been very good. He's only shooting 39.6% on threes. And I think that's a little disappointing. And a lot of his looks are wide open misses, which is to me a little, I think he'll turn it around. But so far I've been a little disappointed with that. But he is finishing at the rim at a higher percentage, which is why his overall field goal percentage is still about 48. But I think the three-point shot will come. I mean, he's still leading the league in free throws, 93%. But the three-point shot for him, especially open, and we noticed it last year in the finals, he did not make open shots. So maybe that's something to watch out for.
Interesting. He makes those out-of-nowhere tough ones that nobody can make, which is definitely a unique part of his game. So, Lance, going to you. Give me a surprise or disappointment you have for the Warriors.
Surprise is also definitely JaVale McGee. As a person that watches the Mavs, I mean, when he was on the team last year, I mean, you would see moments, but I look at it as if you have him in the game for more than 20 minutes, you're going to see a lot of flaws and scars. But I think with the Warriors team, they're great enough to cover up those scars and and things that on other teams could probably kill them. But definitely him would be my surprise. And my disappointment, I was going to go with the Curry because he's averaging, I believe, career lows in three-point percentage. First time under 40% in his career. But I'm going to go with more of a personal thing. I'm just disappointed that I haven't seen any of the historic games that they played, like the Klay Thompson. I didn't see the Steph Curry, three-point record game. It's more on the personal level because honestly, there's not that many disappointing things that they're doing right now.
No, and too bad League Pass online, the streaming is not working too well, or you'd be able to watch that stuff.
Yep, indeed.
Right. Keith, going to you. What do you have?
For me, there not much is a surprise for them. I guess that they've already lost 4 games. I don't know. It's hard to find much that stands out. Disappointment, I would say so far this year, David West. He hasn't really given them very much, and I thought he'd be pretty good off their bench. And I think that could just be him kind of rounding in a form here as the season goes a little bit deeper. But I think they're going to need him down the stretch.
And he's out. It looks like he's going to be out for a little bit now with the hip pointer.
Yeah, I saw that. So yeah, but they can afford to take that slow.
Yeah, yeah, they can trade for Nerlens Noel.
Yeah, I to be honest, I struggled a little bit to even find that one.
Yeah, and here's the thing. I picked Steph Curry. He's shooting. You round up, he's still shooting 40%, and that's a disappointment. Most players would take that in their sleep.
I think just for me, just playing devil's advocate, being able to fire on all cylinders so early, because I think many had them kind of struggling out of the gate with cohesion and things like that. So that was a surprise early on for me, but no surprise that once they got it going, that they've just been unstoppable, and no real disappointment other than Keith, you just touched on it. David West, and Matt, you talked about the injury. Zaza having a little bit of an injury there, but that kind of propels JaVale McGee into the lineup. So maybe he can kind of do.
And with JaVale McGee, we saw it a little bit last night with his passing. Even JaVale McGee's getting into the passing highlights.
I don't know how long that'll last, being JaVale McGee.
If it's one or two passes a game, just don't put him in a position where he has to make 10 passes.
Yeah, anyone can probably look that good against your New York Knicks right now. So.
Yeah.
That happens.
Spurs. Lance, I'm gonna start with you on this one.
Okay, so this one, so it might be nitpicking, but Kawhi Leonard's defensive stats are definitely not, at least for me and some others on the internet. I read some articles from credible sources. His defensive efficiency is just not as great as it was last year. I'm not saying he's poor or even bad, but he's definitely not defensive player of the year candidate. And I was looking up for defensive ratings and things of that nature. He's the 6th best wing player in that rating. And I know a lot of times the defensive rating caters more so for the big men. So that's why I just went by positions instead of overall. And he's a 6th best in that category. So he's still a good defensive player, obviously, but he's just not on the same level as he was last year.
Okay.
And as far as my surprise, I mean, they're still playing a high level basketball with the personnel that they have. I mean, LaMarcus Aldridge, Pau Gasol, those aren't really defensive stoppers by any means. At least, and Dedmon's actually doing somewhat of a good job on that end. So, and I believe they're 2nd best in the West, and I thought they would be, but not. Still looking how they are right now, at least in the early season.
Okay. Keith, what do you have for the Spurs?
My surprise for them is Patty Mills. He had a very strong summer with the Australian national team in the Olympics, was really good, and that's carried all the way over to this season. It's an offensive rating of 120, which is just incredible for him. He has been their best guard all season long and just really consistent. He's averaging a career high in points and just at the right time coming into his free agent year here. So he's played really, really well. On the disappointment, again, little hard to find something. I definitely agree with what Lance said. Kawhi's defense has been down a little, but still good. But one place I am looking for a little bit more is out of Manu Ginobili. He hasn't been the player that he usually is for the Spurs. He's just having kind of an off season. They're only 7.2 points per game. He's only at 36% from the field. So I think that's another one probably going to round into form as the season goes on, and he'll be what we're used to seeing come playoff time. But he's definitely been, lesser of a performer than he usually is.
Pete, may I add real quick where I did get the article from for the Kawhi Leonard information?
Yeah, go ahead.
So it's a gentleman I follow. He writes for CBS Sports. His Twitter handle is @HPBasketball. So if you want to check that out, just go follow him on Twitter. He's a great follow.
Nice. All right. Matt, what do you got for the Spurs?
For my surprise, this is maybe I'm taking the cheap way out, but I did put Kawhi Leonard. I mean, obviously we all had him in our top 10 rankings as far as players, and all that stuff. So we knew he was good. But I'm surprised at just his arsenal of offensive moves. I knew he could score, but just his ability to create his own shot is a lot better than I thought it was going to be, especially with him having to carry the load this year. That was big for me. And then one thing with his moves I like, he's very old school. There's nothing flashy about it, but he just gets the job done. It's not like a million dribbles like James Harden will have to do and just pounding the rock. It's just a jab step here, crossover step, pull-up jump shot all the way to the basket. It's just a beautiful thing to watch. And then the disappointment, obviously it's not much for the Spurs, but just the home losses, losing already 4 times at home this season, or I think what they lose 1 or 2 times last year. So I think that's probably the biggest disappointment for the Spurs.
Okay. I was going to go with like Keith with Patty Mills because it kind of you look at should Patty Mills kind of start over Tony Parker at this point just because Parker's kind of up and down and things like that. No real big disappointment, for me with the Spurs. So I'm going to move on to the Los Angeles Clippers. And Keith, I'm going to start with you for the Clippers.
So my surprise is Austin Rivers. He's been really good for them off their bench, and now he's started. Well, he restarted the other night in place of Mbamute. So he's been, like I said, really good. He's at over 41% from three this year on 3 attempts a game. So, a decent amount of attempts there. He's actually played fairly well, both offensively and defensively. And he's getting regular rotation minutes, which is really big and is actually deserves them now instead of just because he plays for his dad. So it definitely helps. And then my disappointment on them is they still don't stagger their rotation enough. It's still a lot of the starters as a unit and then the bench as a whole unit. Occasionally they'll mix in like Jamal Crawford or somebody in there. But, we really need to see more of that, especially with Blake and CP3. Just mix them up, put them in with the backups occasionally, and see what you got.
Absolutely. Matt, what do you have for the Clippers?
My surprise was Austin Rivers as well. I was going to say the same thing, the 9 points a game, the 41% from the three-point line. That's huge for them, especially from a bench who got off to a hot start, kind of, come back down to earth a little bit since the hot start, which I think is kind of the problem with them recently, which, goes to my disappointment, kind of. I kind of put the same old Clippers. They got off to the hot start. We're like, well, this is the year. And we say it every year about these guys. And then they find a way to prove that, nope, it's going to be the same Clipper team. The bench has come back down to earth, not given much. Spates and Jamal Crawford got off to a blazing hot start defensively. We see that's not there right now. So, hopefully they can improve on these things if they want a chance to get to the NBA Finals. Hell, get out of the second round.
Yeah, absolutely. Lance, what do you have for the Clippers?
Speaking of the bench, seems to be the theme for this team. That's actually my surprise. Per NBA.com, they are, as of right now, 8th overall in bench points. And that's saying something when your bench consists of, Austin Rivers, Raymond Felton, and some other names that casual NBA fans wouldn't even know. But I mean, still eighth in the league in bench points and 3rd in the West. That's pretty good. As far as disappointments, I don't really have any real disappointments because as far as the Clippers are concerned, I know what they're able to do in the regular season. I know they have the skill. For me, it's more so playoff bound, like what they're going to do in the playoffs and their mental capacity. So I'm not really disappointed. Yeah, they've lost games to the Nets and things of that nature, but I mean, I'm used to them having at least 3 or 4 stinkers and getting owned by the Warriors every year. So I'm more so going to wait for the playoffs for disappointments.
I think, kind of touching on your point, my disappointment would be just kind of not taking some games seriously enough because if you're going to be a top team that's basically going to challenge the Warriors for the Western Conference Finals, you have got to blow these teams out and really take a strong hold, on that position and really fight for that number 1 spot. And sometimes they're just so lackadaisical with their, efforts. And I don't get it. Yes, you have the feel good story of now Austin Rivers is not just Doc's son, and you get, stretches of Mo Spates actually doing something for, the Clippers. But then you have stretches where, the bench disappears. Blake's kind of nonchalant. I know he was hurt. But
exactly. The dumb passes and all that stuff that, we saw a couple years ago. And even though they beat the Spurs in that first round, some of those close games, Blake's coming down behind the back passes in the clutch, throwing it out of bounds. And you just wonder, is this team ever going to get away from that?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a big question. Like Lance touched on, I'm going to look for more. I can care less about what they do in the regular season. I want to see if they step up or not when it comes playoff time. But, Matt, I'm going to go to you to start off the Houston Rockets.
My surprise has been Eric Gordon. He's been fantastic for this basketball team, especially off the bench. He's, you take Harden out, you don't really lose a lot offensively for the most part. He's making threes. He can get to the basket. he's been really good for them. I mean, right now he's probably sixth man of the year to me. He's been really good, and he's healthy. He has not been injured yet.
Fair.
Yeah, another one is just a slight surprise. I'd say Sam Decker. I think he's been pretty good for them. Come up big in some of those big wins, against the Warriors. Disappointments, I don't really have anything for this team. They've been I thought they could finish top 3. I had them finishing 5th overall, but not much to complain about with the Rockets this year. They've been pretty good.
Okay. Lance, I'm going to you with the Rockets.
As far as disappointments, I'm pretty sure, like, Pete, you're probably going to touch on this a little bit. Demo, Moton Eunice not working out for the team. I really thought that would be one of the teams that he would fit well on, especially with this system that they're running now. And as far as surprises, it's going to be James Harden. I mean, I know he's a great offensive player, but I didn't know if he could actually run a team. Like, I'm used to him making offenses stagnant and not looking as well. But this year, I mean, they beat the Warriors. I mean, they've done a lot of good things. I mean, they split with the Thunder. And, I mean, his assists, I swear it's almost every game he has 14 or 15 assists or something. And it's lovely to watch. I actually enjoy watching.
And it's not like Russell Westbrook assists. He's actually looking for his teammates, trying to get them good looks. He's not passing out of just desperation because he has nothing.
I mean, Eric Gordon's probably never used to being that open for 3 and things like that. And look at how he's playing this year.
Yeah, and I think, and Keith can correct me on this if I'm wrong on this, but wasn't it a few years ago Keith Gordon shot about 45% from the 3-point line?
Yeah, it was something like that. It's just always health with him. That's the story. If he can stay healthy, he's a good player. And
absolutely. I think people forgot how good he is because of all the injury problems.
Yep. Exactly.
Keith, Matt, you're right. You're right there. 44.8% 2 years.
Yeah.
That's what I was thinking. It's just all about the health on, for him. But Keith, I'm going to go to you. What do you have for the Rockets?
Yeah, so I'll touch on my disappointment first. Is just the whole Donatas Motiejunas situation. It's really on all sides. Him, BJ Armstrong, his agent, the team just didn't make sense the way the whole thing played out. Really, really kind of silly situation. And now there's continued drama with if he should or shouldn't be able to sign with the Nets or not, and if they're going to petition the league, and all this other, call what it is, silliness with that whole situation. My surprise for them, though, is everything. I thought this was going to be bad. I thought they were going to struggle to be a 500 team. I thought the offense would be good, but I thought their defense was going to be horrendous. And they have definitely been far better than that. Their defensive rating, it's dropped off over the last handful of weeks here. They're down to 17th, but if they can stay top 20 with how good their offense is, they're going to be fine. So definitely that's my surprise is just the fact that they have been a far better team than I thought they would be.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Mine is Clint Capella as far as a surprise. I wasn't quite sure how he would fit on a D'Antoni led team, but he's been great. Montrezl Harrell has been good. Sam Decker has been good. You have to look at D'Antoni for Coach of the Year, early on so far. Disappointment, I'd have to look at KJ McDaniels not seizing a great opportunity to solidify a rotation spot. Kind of those minutes went to, to Sam Decker and of course Corey Brewer, as well. So, not much else, disappointing outside of that. But going to the Memphis Grizzlies, Keith, I'm going to start with you with the Grizzlies.
Give me one. Sorry. Closed my document by mistake.
You're good.
Yeah, so the disappointment is the injuries, just that it happened again to this group. But the surprise is that they have lost almost no ground because of those injuries. They just keep chugging along, and now they're starting to get healthy. Mike Conley's going to play tonight, which is really surprising. Didn't expect him to be back then. And then I think it's Chandler Parsons and James Ennis around the corner, probably within the next handful of days here, maybe 2-3 games away at the very most, if not sooner.
Mm-hmm.
And there was some thought that Parsons may even go tonight. I haven't heard anything definitive on that yet.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, they've just they just keep chugging along. They do what they do and play really hard every night, and probably one of the best defensive teams in the league as far as consistency goes, with bringing it night in and night out. And they're just really surprising to me that they're still hanging in there.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Lance, what do you have for the Grizzlies?
So the obvious is the injuries. I mean, I believe there hasn't even been one game where they've all played together. Am I correct, Keith?
I think there might have been one where they had
one,
and even then, that's like being
regular starting five. Yeah,
right. It's saddening. I mean, because we know what this team can be, at least potentially. But I mean, the surprises. Last time I checked, I believe I checked this morning. They are, if not number one, they're in the top 3 defensively. And I mean, in the record is a testament to how tough they are. And I know saying they have heart is like really cliche, but it really resonates with this team, and you can see it. I mean, them beating the Warriors. I mean, they beat the Warriors more time than the Clippers have this year. So just put that in perspective. And that's my take on them. I mean, you gotta love
the Clippers slander. Yes, it's
Matt,
it's earned though.
What do you have
for Memphis? I'm not going to touch disappointment, injuries. I'll leave it at that. We've hit on that a lot this year. My surprise though, Marc Gasol. We all knew he was one of the best big men in the league, but he's 31 now, coming off of an injury season. I didn't know what he'd be able to do, and he absolutely carried this basketball team with Conley and Parsons and all these injuries. I mean, the only reason, I know Lance got me the other day for not having him in my MVP, they didn't have one of the best 4 records in the West, which was my criteria. That's the only reason he's not on my list. But he's been absolutely fantastic.
Okay. Basically, like I said, I don't have anything outside of the injuries. So, Matt, I'm actually going to go back to you to start out the Utah Jazz for me.
Well, disappointment, injuries. I'm not going to say anything more. We can, we've hit this one many times as well with this Utah Jazz team. My surprise, even though he's been hurt, though, has been George Hill. How good he's been for this team. And the stat, we all know with him and Hayward healthy together, they're undefeated. Problem is they just haven't been healthy all year. And what are they now? 16-10, I think. So they're really staying afloat right now. If this team ever can get healthy and stay healthy, this team's going to give a lot of teams problems.
Absolutely. Keith, what do you have for the Jazz?
Yeah, disappointment, injuries, same as Matt, same as probably everybody else. My surprise for them is that Gordon Hayward has developed into a full-blown superstar. There's really not much the guy can't do on the court, especially on the offensive end. Great ball handler, great passer, good shooter, good scorer, can score off the dribble. Really just well-rounded offensive game, and he's carrying the Jazz a lot of the nights when he's in there without George Hill, without Rodney Hood. And he's going to see a new giant contract this summer. He's got a player option that he'll definitely exercise and opt out. So he has just been, big time, stepped up his game, and looks like he's really running into superstar form for the Jazz. So, that's great to see. Great to see one young guy take that lead.
Absolutely. Lance, what do you have for the Jazz?
It's pretty much injuries, and George Hill for me, he's pretty much career high in every, category, especially the points, obviously, for the 20 points per game. Now, of course, he hasn't played every game because he's been hurt, but, I'd have never thought that he'd be one of the main players on a winning team. I know he was good with the Spurs, but I never pictured him as being maybe like the number 2 offensive guy, So definitely a surprise for me. And everything else has pretty much been said because it's right on the nose.
For me, it's sustaining a great defense. They're 3rd in defensive rating. With all the injuries, that's crazy. Mm-hmm. They've got 5 players with a true shooting percentage of at least 66% in Rudy Gobert, Joe Ingles, George Hill, Joel Belombi, and Raul Neto. So it's crazy. Once they get Favors back fully healthy, and I think they can surprise a lot of people and be right where I thought they'd be in that 4 slot to close out the season. Going to the Oklahoma City Thunder, Lance, I'm going to start with you.
Okay, so for me, this guy probably doesn't even get talked about a lot, but watching him play, Andre Robertson is pretty disappointing to me. I mean, I guess he's decent defensively, but oh my goodness, like his 3-point shot is not even, it's like average maybe, if that. 28% for free throws, I believe, right now.
He's atrocious shooting the ball.
That's crazy to me, and it sucks because at one point they had Cephalosha on their team, and man, like you go from Cephalosha to Andre Robertson, and he's just abysmal in pretty much every offensive stat. And as far as like being surprised, I was surprised that they signed Oladipo to that extension so early in the season. Of course, he is looking pretty good. I just didn't know. Like, I was like, man, that was pretty confident of them with it. And he's actually playing like well side by side with Westbrook, and that was my question. Like, how are they going to coexist? And I guess they made the right decision. But early on, I was surprised by that.
Keith, I'm going to go to you.
Yeah, it's surprises. We knew Russ would be good, but 30, 10, and 10. I mean, that's ridiculous. Those are. I try not to use this term too often because I think the people who don't play video games, but those are video game numbers, right? So disappointment is, I think, too much Russ sometimes.
Yep.
Especially down the stretch in games. And I get it that it's him or Oladipo or maybe Cantor if he's in there on the offensive end that he has trust in, but they've got to figure that out because he's only shooting 42% on the year. Takes a lot of tough shots. He's a lot of bailout shots, late clock situation.
Yep.
It's just throw it to him and make something happen. So they got to figure that out. But right now I'm just enjoying it, and they're winning games, so can't really rip it too much.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely, Matt. What do you have?
I don't really have anything for surprise, but disappointments. It's not him specifically, like he's been bad, but just the way they use Steven Adams. I think he can give them a lot more offensively, but it kind of piggybacks off of what Keith was saying, too much Russell Westbrook. It's clear he does not trust Steven Adams, but, they play the Golden State Warriors. He's got Draymond Green at it. Give him the ball. He backs him down, spin move, layup. And Keith talked, I asked Keith about this a few weeks ago, and he said, for the most part, Steven Adams can score on the post, just back his guy down. Now, when stronger guys push him out, he has trouble with that. But not many guys in the NBA are stronger than Steven Adams. I think they could use him a little better in pick and roll situations, spin him, dive to the basket, but it's just Russell Westbrook all day long.
Yeah, absolutely. I think a surprise for me, many did not even have him making the team. It's Samaj Christian. Basically, in the 24 games that he's gone from basically a D-League piece all of last season, to the backup. Obviously, Cameron Payne's hurt. But in the last 6 games, basically he's got a 20-3 assist to turnover ratio. Very capable backup and is, holding strong to that spot. Now, obviously, when Cameron Payne comes back, he'll probably slide down to the, third point guard spot. But definitely a big surprise for me. And the disappointment, as you guys already said, is too much Russ. He has to trust his teammates. So going to the Portland Trailblazers, Matt, I'm gonna start with you.
I kind of put 2 guys here, but I'll stick with. I went with Mason Plumlee. I think he's been pretty good for them, and just I'm playing against Julian Lomenzo this week in fantasy, and Plumlee's killing me. But I'm going to go C.J. McCollum, and I say that because he got the huge contract in the offseason, and I'm always interested in how guys, when they get that contract, are they going to be Mo Taylor and just not give a damn? But, I mean, C.J. McCollum's been really good. He's still shooting the ball just at a real high clip from 3. And disappointments, I got 2. But I got Evan Turner and Alan Crabb. I'm going to go especially Crabb. He, to me, seems like that guy who got his money and now he doesn't give a damn. That's just what it looks like to me. I could be totally wrong, and he turns it around, but it just seems to be that guy who got paid, and now it's like, okay, I'm just going to go through the motions. And with Evan Turner, I think a lot of it was just kind of the way they were playing him.
Okay. Lance, what do you have for the Blazers?
I mean, I'm definitely disappointed at where they're at in the season. I mean, I believe what are they ninth right now?
They're
I know it's
eighth.
yeah. Were they
They're
eighth?
sitting at eighth. Yeah, they're sitting at eight.
Probably not a comfortable eighth. Either way, like I mean, I didn't see them as I saw them as like at least top 6, top 5. I mean, their offseason didn't wow me, but I thought the building of McCollum and Lillard as the backcourt, would improve. But anyways, as far as my surprise, I'm surprised that more people don't talk about Damian Lillard's defensive efficiency or deficiency, I should say. I mean, if you look at it, I mean, there's categories, and we talk about Westbrook like he's not a great defender or sometimes even a good defender. But Westbrook is ahead of the curve in a lot of these advanced stats more so than Lillard is.
Ahead of the curve in a bad, like with Lillard in a bad way.
Exactly. And Matt touched on it in the pre-show. It's just Lillard's not on the same notoriety as
he's not.
say
The hype
Harden
isn't there.
or Westbrook. But it's still like it should be talked about because I mean, literally, there's a couple of very very smart basketball people that I follow on Twitter, and they harp on it a lot. And at first, I didn't see it, but then when you break it down, you can actually kind of see it. And now it's sticking in my mind, and I think more people should be on the notice of that instead of just saying the same old Westbrook and Harden can't play D. But
that's part of I think, and that's part of the problem with this Portland team. Their backcourt defense is not the greatest, and they're undersized.
Keith, what do you have for the Blazers?
My surprise is Mo Harkless. He's been really good. Got that contract this summer, and he's lived up to every bit of it. Really solid play all season long. And my disappointment is everything that's not Mo Harkless. So
basically the whole team.
Yeah, I bought in. I thought they were going to be good this year. I had them fourth this season. Now they're looks like they're going to be in a fight to make the playoffs potentially. So that's just it's really disappointing. Matt touched on it with Evan Turner. People are really ripping on Evan Turner, but they spent the first quarter of the season really just putting him in the corner and just letting him stand there off of Lillard and McCollum. And that's what Indiana did with Turner, and that's why he was so bad in Indiana. He's not that kind of player. You need to put the ball in his hands, let him make some plays, let him do some things. And I thought really about a week and a half or so ago, maybe 2 weeks now, they started giving him the ball a little bit more, letting him run things on the second unit, really even when he was in there with Lillard and McCollum, letting him be the ball handler and those guys playing off him. So I think he'll start to come around and maybe the whole team will. But, yeah, just right now it's just not very good. And they're so bad defensively. The effort's not there night in and night out. It's just not good. They're not the fun team to watch like they were last year.
Yeah, that's my biggest disappointment is their defense, of course. And I kind of have a slash next to that because Festus Ezeli not being able to get healthy is a big disappointment.
Yeah.
To me personally.
Too.
Yeah, exactly. Aminu being out makes a big difference. And, I really, really hope that they make the playoffs and not just barely slide in there at the A spot. But looks like it's probably going to be a fight.
To be swept by and then just to win the right to get swept by Golden State.
Yeah, basically. Going to the Denver Nuggets, Keith. I'm going to start with you.
Surprise is Wilson Chandler. Missed all the last season. He's been fantastic. I don't know that he's going to be long for the Nuggets. I think there's a good chance they're going to turn him into something in a trade at some point. Just doesn't seem to make a lot of sense that he needs to be there. We on RealGM.com, we have a really good article up about Wilson Chandler by Michael Pena wrote that and really solid article. So I encourage everybody to check that out if you have a chance about why it just makes almost too much sense to trade Chandler. And then my disappointment for Denver has been Emmanuel Mudiay. He just hasn't come as far as I thought he would. As a point guard, he's really struggling to make basic point guard plays. He can do some things when he's looking to score the ball for himself, but as far as running an offense, setting up his teammates, those kind of things, just hasn't looked as good as I would have hoped he has. And their offense actually seems to run a lot better when Jameer Nelson is out there running things is when your offense seems to hum a little bit better.
Okay, Matt.
My surprise is going to be Jamal Murray. I'm sure you probably saw that one coming in, and more so because you and I, Pete, both, we did not know what the hype was coming around out of this guy out of college. I did not buy into it. You didn't buy into it, and I'll admit I was wrong. He looks like he's going to be a really good basketball player. He took off a couple weeks ago, had some downers, couple good games this last week, but I think he's going to be a really good player for them. And I think a lot of the reason his numbers kind of fluctuate up and down when you watch the games, just watching, they don't look for him too much. He's kind of, if he's open, we'll give it to him. Or if he gets an outlet pass or the rebound himself, he's constantly in attack mode. But he's not really, Chandler's going to take the shots. Jameer Nelson's going to take shots. He's out there with Nurkic and Jokic who are going to take shots. So he's not exactly the go-to guy when he's out there. So I think that's some of the reason for his scoring numbers up and down. And then the disappointment.
I'm going to tag in on that real quick. Sorry. And you're absolutely right. Their best ball mover is Jokic.
Yeah.
Everybody else, in Nelson off the bench, but everybody else is a score-first guy.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. So that is a challenge. Even when they run good sets, they're not. It's like whoever gets it, it's going up pretty quick.
And I've noticed a little bit with Chandler when he gets that ball, he's got a little Carmelo Anthony in his game.
Yeah.
Yes, he does.
And he has been great for them, though. I'm not taking that away, but he's getting his FGAs. And my disappointment, I'm with Keith, it's Moutier. I picked Moutier to be the most improved player this year, and he looks like he's digressed this year. His decision-making is god-awful. He's averaging under like 5 assists a game. I think until recently he went like 2 weeks without getting at least 5 assists in a game. It's terrible. He can't shoot still. He's pretty good at finishing at the rim, but he hasn't made that jump that I was hoping he would make this year.
Yeah, and the thing, kind of to touch on what you said about Murray, is if he's aggressive, he's going to get points. Mm-hmm. The only question mark I have is there's so many guards on that team.
Yeah, that's another problem. Yeah, that's why trades have to be made
from long term. So,
I don't think they're going to be a playoff team this year. I think you got to make moves and you roll with Jamal Murray. Get him at least 6-man. Let him be the guy off the bench that scores at this point. Because I don't think they're going to move Moutier just yet. I'm sure they're going to give him a little bit more time.
Yeah. Lance, what do you have for the Nuggets?
All right. Well, I'm going for the hat trick. And no, we did not call each other before the show. Definitely Wilson Chandler. It would be hard, for my surprise, that is, be hard not to notice him, 18 points, career high. I always knew he was good, like a third option, fourth option, but he's looking really good, albeit on a bad team. But like Keith said, I'm sure he'll get traded to a contender somewhere, at least a playoff-bound team. And definitely Moutier is my disappointment. Numbers-wise, he hasn't regressed significantly, but it's like a stuck in the mud season. He's not really going too far down, but he's also not really progressing at all. So I know we know he can't shoot, but I always thought he was a playmaker and he could do something in the NBA. But as of right now, just doesn't seem that way, at least on a starting scale. Maybe have to be a bench player somewhere, but that's definitely my take on them.
Absolutely. I'm right there with you guys with Moutier, but I think another one for me as a disappointment is there hasn't been a resolution to the Kenneth Faried situation. Mm-hmm. He had basically DMP coach's decision. He plays some nights and he looks good. Other nights he doesn't. And it's just, I really wish they would move him, somewhere. It's just, he has a unique skill set that is not going to necessarily fit on every single team. So you kind of have to find the right situation for him. And I'm hoping at some point by the trade deadline, they make a move and can get him, to a different situation that benefits his game still, and the Nuggets can get something in return, of some kind of value.
Absolutely.
All right, Matt, I'm going to you first with the Sacramento Kings.
Yes, it's the worst franchise in professional sports. Here we go. Surprise, Rudy Gay. He's been really good. Defensively, he's probably had his best year since he's come into the league. His efficiency's pretty good this year. And he's just, that in itself has been a surprise because he's been known as one of those chuckers, not very efficient. but he's actually looked good, and I think he's got pretty good trade value at this point. Expiring contract, so maybe a contender will take a chance on him to help maybe put him over the top. And my disappointment is the Sacramento Kings. It doesn't look like this team really has any, and I blame more so the front office. Nobody's on the same page, it seems like. You have those that want Cousins out of there. Then you got Vivek Ranadive who doesn't want to trade him. It's like, and I know I beat this like a dead horse and all that stuff, but it's just terrible. The front office is a complete mess.
It was funny because I watched the Kevin Johnson kind of little memorial thing, and he just totally dissed Ranadive, and Ranadive just looks like a sad kid that got put
because
in the corner.
It's true. It's all even the mayor of Sacramento is dissing Ranadive. Come on now, we got to improve here. This is not going to work.
Yeah. Lance, what do you have for the Kings?
Okay, oh man, this is like a mirror match. Is Rudy Gay definitely? I mean, this man is playing to get out of Sacramento. He is doing his best to get out of there. He said it in the beginning of the season that this is hell, like basketball hell, literally. Like, I'm not paraphrasing.
Mm-hmm.
And Keith, I'm gonna ask you a question because I did see this trade was potential until Payne got hurt. Was there some kind of package to where Rudy Gay would go to the Thunder and Cameron Payne would be involved? Did you hear about that or read about that?
Yeah, I've heard it. I think that was something that got put together by people like us on the internet because it makes some sense for both sides, but I don't think it ever got really far. OKC would love to get Rudy Gay. The challenge is Payne's not enough to match salary.
Right.
Would have to go figure that part of it out. So, it could still happen. I know they love him as a second scorer.
Could it be like a deal where you go Rudy Gay and let's say Cauley Stein for Cantor and Payne?
Yeah, I don't think the Kings want to take back Cantor. The last thing they need is their offense first again.
That's true.
Who's but then again, it's the Kings, so who?
That's exactly you can hoodwink the Kings.
Yeah, exactly.
It makes sense for the Kings because they at least getting Payne because they really need a guard because, like he said, they have too many bigs. But also for my disappointment is also the Kings. I mean, for goodness sake, they signed Matt Barnes. And I know he's not like a guy that really matters in the grand scheme of things, but even so, like chemistry wise, off the court wise, if you're gonna hire a veteran that's like 35 years old, wouldn't you want a positive veteran to be around Cousins? Why would you ever sign Matt Barnes? So I don't want to really give it too much shine because it's already a headache that I'm talking about him for more than 30 seconds. So that's how I feel about him, unfortunately.
Keith, you're up.
Yeah, I don't have any disappointments because I'm done having expectations for them.
That says it in a nutshell right there.
I think it's a consensus that we all think this franchise is a mess.
Yeah, it's and they always say the worst thing than disappointment is apathy, and that's basically where I am. I just don't care about them anymore. But I will flip it and give a positive. Surprise is Darren Collison. He's been really, really good. 47.6% from the field, over 40% from three this year. He has played fairly solid on the offense and defensive end since coming back. Or excuse me, on the offensive end, his defense is not good like most of the Kings' defense is not. But he has been a good player. Expiring contract, he could be someone that they could move in a deal at some point and try to get a younger player in there. It wouldn't surprise me because he's another one. I don't think he's going to be long for Sacramento after this.
Okay. For me, just a little bit of a disappointment is Omri Caspi still being stuck in Sacramento. Please move him to a contending team.
Thank you, Pete. Thank you.
Because I think just everything that he can do on the floor, Keith, you've touched on it before about him being perfect for the Boston Celtics. Something along that lines.
Yeah, I love Cap. So.
I mean, he can stretch the floor. I mean, he's definitely can shoot, and his minutes have gone down significantly. I think he's down 7 or 8 minutes, and in the last couple of years, he actually looked on the up and up. So that's why it's been surprising me that
he's not a Yorger guy.
No, and disappointment wise has got to be Aaron Aflalo. I mean, you signed the guy to be the starting two guard, and he's not even in the rotation. So, I don't want to.
They realize what us smart basketball people realized last year when he was with the Knicks.
Yeah, I don't want to spend too much time on the lonely Sacramento Kings. So we're going to move on to the surprising Los Angeles Lakers. And Lance, I'm going to start with you.
All right, so full disclaimer, guys. I'm not usually a fan of this guy, but oh my goodness, the renaissance of Nick Young. I mean, this dude was potentially out of the league after all the shenanigans with him and Russell last year, and also just, the way he throws up some of these ill-advised shots and his nonchalant, really, I don't care attitude. But, I mean, his true shooting is up. I believe it's a career high or close to a career high. I mean, he's, once again, bought into the system. I know after a while that sounds funny, but it's true. You can see it. I mean, he did steal a game winner from Lou Williams, but he made it.
He didn't do that. I don't think he was doing that like vindictively or anything. I think he was just in the area. Yeah, it happened. That wasn't his intention.
But I like what he's doing now. It sucks that he did get hurt, but I believe he's about to come back. Is that true, Keith?
Yeah, he's back.
Okay.
Yeah.
So definitely a good surprise there. A disappointment would be Luol Deng. I mean, he's pretty much career lows almost everywhere. And also, I never understood him being there in the first place. I always see him as a guy helping someone like that's in the playoffs, somewhat, be one of the guys to get them to the next step. I'm not saying championship, but at least get to the next round. I don't think he makes sense on a losing roster. And I know everyone saw how good they were in the beginning, but I still didn't think they would be the 8th seed. And, injuries and also other things have brought them back down to earth. So I don't know why Deng is there, and I don't know if he's even good enough to get traded this year.
Keith, going to you for the Lakers.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat on the disappointment with Luol Deng. I'd like to see them start giving more and more of those minutes to Brandon Ingram. I want to see what Ingram can do if he's force-fed minutes, and I think it's coming. They're starting to regress back to what we all thought they would be, which was not a very good team, and that opens up minutes. But on the surprising front, they've been really fun to watch. And for an East Coast guy, you need fun teams in that late window. And for the last couple of years, whenever it was the Lakers, especially on those TNT Thursdays or those ESPN nights, and they were in the national game, I was like, the Lakers again. Like, this is what I'm stuck with. And now this year, they're fun to watch. They get up and down the floor. They play very hard. They share the ball well. So, they're building something in LA. It's going to take a little bit, but they've got some pieces.
Absolutely. Matt.
I echo what Lance said with Nick Young. I was just going to add, defensively, he's probably been their best wing player this year, which I think is a surprise because we don't look at Nick Young as Nick Young, the defender, but he's been pretty good on that end of the floor for him. And my disappointment, I'm going with Brandon Ingram. Like Keith said, he wants to see him get more minutes. I would too, but it's more so his shooting. He just has not been a very good shooter for them this year, and I thought he would shoot the ball better because he is a tremendous outside shooter. And one thing I do want to add for, I know a lot of people say bad things about D'Angelo Russell. A lot of negativity goes his way from time to time. But he's the only player in NBA history to average 15 points and 4.5 assists a game in less than 28 minutes played per game. So I just wanted to give some positivity for D'Angelo Russell.
Nice. Okay.
So there's some things there with him that there are, to look forward to.
I would say for me, the surprise, I thought he would end up taking a step back this season is Lou Williams, and he has just been killing it this season. 19 points in just 25 minutes, basically putting him on pace to lead an NBA team in scoring without starting a single game. Since basically. Since he did it with the Sixers in 2011, 2012. So, he's been great. A little bit of a disappointment is Huertas off the bench. I thought he would kind of step up a little bit more kind of in the absence of D'Angelo Russell. I loved his game kind of in Europe, but it just seems like defensively he's not there. He does some things on offense that have looked good, but just defensively, just not great. And I didn't really have many disappointments other than Keith, what you touched on. They're right back kind of where we thought they'd fall. So,
yep.
And Keith, I'm going to start with you for the New Orleans Pelicans.
My surprise has been Tim Frazier. He has been terrific for them all year, whether it was starting games or now coming off the bench. Had a triple-double the other night off the bench, which was a big surprise. And he's just been really good. And considering the injury history of Drew Holiday, it's important that they have a good, strong backup guard there. He was out the other night with a sprained wrist, but doesn't sound like it's overly serious, so it's good. And then the disappointment side is just injuries have played a toll, but even the guys who have been healthy, just not enough help for Anthony Davis on a nightly basis. Davis is more so than anybody carried his team in a bigger chunk of the load with just little help around him. But they're finally look like they're getting guys back now. Tyreek Evans played for the first time last night and did okay. The Holiday's back seems to be looking pretty good. So hopefully they can get healthy there. And I'm going to make a prediction on these guys. They're going to be in it fighting for a playoff spot at the end of the year despite the really tough start.
Okay.
Nice.
Right.
I absolutely agree. I think they're going to be right there in that they could fall short, to like 10th, but I think they're going to be right there in that 8-9 range, just kind of battling it out at the end of the season.
Yeah, it helps them that Portland didn't run away.
So.
Yeah, it really helps them that Portland didn't run away.
Yeah, that's true.
With the last spot, so that keeps them alive for it. But I think they're going to be in the mix.
Absolutely, Lance.
All right, so once again, we did not call each other and ask. I mean, I guess some of these teams are more on the nose than others. Definitely Tim Frazier, especially considering Holiday had to miss some games due to the tragedy, dealing with his wife and what happened with her. He's been spot on. And then this is disappointment. It's just, just the injuries and also just the roster in general that they got around Anthony Davis. I mean, you got, Omar Asik, and I'm sure he's not even seeing the court or anything, but just he's probably untradeable at this point with his contract and his skills. But it's just he's for the long ride. He's going to be there, and I just don't have any faith that they'll really get him anything before his contract is up. So that's my biggest disappointment is he's going and having a freaking great year, but it's just going to be all for nothing because even if they make the playoffs, they're going to get killed by the Warriors again, just like we already saw. So,
right, Matt.
I took the easy way out again on this one. I actually went Anthony Davis. And the stats don't do him justice, what he's doing for this team. The 30 points, the 11, 12 rebounds, the 3 blocks. Watching the games, this guy just absolutely dominates. And we all knew he was good, but this guy has been just fantastic. I didn't realize he was going to be this good, and he stayed healthy so far, which is the biggest knock on him, I think, has just been his health. And disappointment, I'm putting him on here, Buddy Hield. However, he looked fantastic the other night. If he can keep this up, I think he's the key for them getting the playoffs. He doesn't have to get 21 points every game, but if he can shoot that ball at a high percentage, and I think he's over 40% threes when he starts.
Yep.
So if he can keep that up, I think you keep this guy in the starting lineup for that floor spacing because you got Solomon Hill out there. He can't shoot. Tyreek Evans isn't a shooter. You're not, nobody's. But I think Buddy Hield, if he can give them that 3-point shot at 40%, and he said it the other day, it's what they brought me here for. So
exactly. I'm not going to beat a dead horse because my surprise was Tim Frazier, and disappointment is everything but Anthony Davis for that team. But Keith, I want to go to you to start off the Suns.
Surprised is T.J. Warren before he got hurt. Really stepped up. That guy is a professional scorer. I think he's at about 17 points per game right now and is just really going to be a good player for them once he gets back and gets on the court. So he's, the small forward's the one spot where they don't have a lot of young talent and depth, and Warren looks like he could be their guy there. long term. Started to show this towards the end of last year. Good to see it carry over so far. So hopefully he can get back on the court soon. Then disappointment, I'm going to give you two. The first one is Devin Booker, just sophomore slump. I don't know what it is. People know him now. Teams recognize it, but he just hasn't been nearly as good as I thought he might be. I thought he might push up over 20 points per game this year fairly easily with good shooting numbers, and just haven't seen that. And then my second one is, and I harp on this pretty regularly just about any time these guys come up, is they have to play Dragan Bender more. They've got to give him more minutes, especially get him in there at the 5. Let him function as that stretch 5. Stop wasting these minutes on all these other guys. Get that figured out and get Bender in the lineup, because it doesn't make sense to me that the guy doesn't ever really get a shot to play.
Yeah, that's actually Bender. Just to keep mine real, brief. Bender was my surprise because I thought, based on summer league, he was going to get eaten alive during the regular season, and he's actually been really good for them on the defensive end, especially at the 5. And then Alan Williams is another one that's been a surprise for me. He can do the dirty work. Keith, I know you had an article where you put him at one of the surprise free agents to look for. And I had to smile at that because I was like, wow, nobody talks about Alan Williams, but it was kind of cool to see him in an article, to see, all right, this is potentially what he could do under the radar.
I love that guy. His per 36-minute stats, which I don't love using that stat unless it's for a guy who doesn't get much run. They're just ridiculous. 16, 17 rebounds a game. And, the fact that he can block some shots, he hustles, he'll bang inside. I love that guy. So, I think there's a lot of teams he can help, and there's a chance he, might get paid this summer.
Yeah. Lance, going to you with the Suns.
Okay, so for my surprise, and really you could put as my disappointment, is Brandon Knight not being able to relish in the 6-man role. I mean, at what point are the Suns going to realize that they didn't make the right move by getting him? I personally like him. I thought he was pretty good with the Bucks. I never understood why they would trade him. That's beyond me, at least. So that's definitely my surprise. And also, my disappointment is Booker. I mean, he's averaging more points, but his percentages are down. And like he said, maybe now people are actually gearing their defenses towards him instead of him just being like
the scouting report is out on Devin Booker. They're game planning for him now.
So and his team's not great anyway. So I'm sure like he's having problems maybe with his teammates as well, helping him out, getting better shots and things of that nature. But some of these teams as we go down the line, there's so many problems, but there's glaring problems. So I think that's why some of ours are the same.
Absolutely. Matt, I know you're probably going to touch on Devin Booker. I have a strong...
Actually, no. Honestly, he was going to be one of my disappointments. I went with Brandon Knight, but I'm going to go with my surprise. I'm with you, Keith. Dragan Bender. Even some of the preseason games, he just looked like an absolute deer in the headlights. And then he came out, and he looks like he doesn't look scared at all when he's in the game. He does a lot of good things for them, really hits that corner 3 pretty good. I'm just really surprised that they're not using him more. Like Keith said, they got to go with this guy. Go with Chris. Go with Bender, Booker. Just see, TJ Warren when he gets back. See what you got with these guys, Move on from Tyson Chandler if you can. I think you can probably get something for him because he's been pretty good for them. That would have been another one of my surprises. He's had a nice season for them. And disappointment, Brandon Knight. This is a guy, I didn't pick him as 6th man of the year, but many people did. And he has been awful. And I think I saw a stat. I could be wrong on, but it looked like he's like 431st in plus minus, which is just basically bottom of the just dander dead last.
I mean, Matt, I believe he's shooting under 40% field goals. So
yeah, he's terrible. He's been awful.
Horrible.
Yeah. All right, Matt, you're up for the
Minnesota Timberwolves. My surprise, Zach LaVine. Been fantastic for this team, and I know some people have really not always seen, but I always thought this guy was going to be good. 20.5 points, 3 assists, 3 rebounds, the 47% from the field, 37 from 3, 87 from the foul line. He's been really good for them. Now all we got to do is get him to play a little defense. The whole team. They're young, so I think can happen. And that's kind of my disappointment with them. I was going to go with Towns and Dunn. You know, Towns has still been really good, but not, you know, I don't think he took that step a lot of us thought he would. You know, I had him top 10 ranked going into the season. He hasn't been that guy. But I think overall, just the defense has been awful. You know, and Eddie Johnson was saying it the other day when on NBA radio. Just these young guys, the offense always develop first. They've got to learn to play defense, and sometimes that takes a little bit of time. So you don't want to write these guys off just yet.
Absolutely. Lance, what do you have for the T-Wolves?
Okay, so definitely Levine is my surprise. I mean, I was one of the guys that I was just, oh, he's just going to be a dunker or something. And, I mean, I never envisioned him as a 20-point scorer, even in this small of a sample size. But I like what I see. And as far as disappointments, I am going with Towns because, I think very highly of him. And I was watching the Bulls game the other night, and I forgot who the sideline reporter was, but they were talking about his shots. And he admitted that he probably took way too many threes that game. And his percentages are down. His points are up, of course, but his percentages are down. And I think way too highly of him for him to even – he knows he shouldn't be taking a lot of these three-pointers. I mean, this dude can bang and get down low with his athleticism and the way for a big, how he can drive to the basket. So that's my disappointment. I think he'll be fine, but as of right now, he needs to do better.
Yeah. I mean, the guy's still averaging like 22, 10,
right.
You know, and all that. I mean, so the numbers are there, but
that's what I'm looking at. His points are there, of course, but his percentages are down, and the fact that he knows that he probably should be taking better shots than what he's taking.
Mm-hmm. And he's got to be better defensively, because that's one thing we all thought he would do, is be a dominant defensive player. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Keith, what do you have for the T-Wolves?
Keep it really simple. Their surprise is how good as a team they've been on offense. They didn't expect this to be this way. And then on the flip side, the disappointment is how bad the defense has been.
Mm-hmm. They're like an anti-Thibodeau team.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. It seems like they are, you know, the complete opposite of what any of us thought they would be. I wasn't as high on them coming in to the season as others were. I thought they needed, you know, another year or two to, you know, grow and figure this out. And you know what? It's not going to be the worst thing. Get another good pick, get another good draft, and add another guy to this, and then go from there with, you know, a year of experience. But definitely didn't expect the offense to be as good as it is, and certainly didn't expect the defense to be as bad as it is.
Can I ask a question to Keith real quick, Pete? Is that cool?
Yeah, go.
Now, when you say they can getting a pick, Keith, what do you think about packaging a high pick and Rubio for a high quality veteran? What would you think of that?
Depends on who it is.
But definitely something that you would think about, right? Because I mean, with Tibbs, I'm pretty sure he doesn't want to just keep being lottery bound.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't do it this year because I think they're too far out of it for it to matter this season. But if something presents itself around the draft, then definitely it's something I would consider. I wouldn't go too crazy. The guy would have to be someone who's a really big upgrade at a position of need,
like Jimmy Butler.
Yeah, Jimmy Butler would make a lot of sense for them. But it doesn't. I don't think Chicago is going to let him shake.
No way on that.
Not right now, anyways.
I would, I'm just going to go with the, same thing. I had the defense is a disappointment. Basically, this team was projected by many to, kind of get 40, wins or so on the season. I did not have them in the playoffs. I thought, like you, Keith, another year, to take. And now they're on pace right now to only win 23 games after winning 29.
I won't lie. I drank the Kool-Aid. Kool-Aid with this team.
Me too.
Man, they're
not as much as me, Lance. I had this team in the conference finals.
Yeah, you're crazy. I had them at like 7th or 8th seed. But yes, you are the crazy one.
Yeah, that's all right.
I drank the Kool-Aid. Yeah, I was wrong.
Can't be right on every prediction.
No. I can't get Thon Maker right every time.
Right. All right, Lance, you're up to start off the Dallas Mavericks.
All right, so we're gonna dive right in to one of the more unknown players, to casual fans, to even some Mavs fans, for goodness sake. Dorian Finney-Smith.
Yep.
Everything that Justin Anderson was supposed to be. I mean, he's been coming on lately. He's had 4 double-digit games, and 3 out of those 4, for the people that care for the stat, he was in the plus side of things on the plus-minus scale. He also can hit the 3. He's a lot better defensively than what I thought Justin Anderson would be at this point. So that's my surprise and my disappointment. And, of course, is Justin Anderson and Powell. Definitely Anderson. He has the prototypical size of an NBA player you want, length. He's pretty athletic. He's one of those players that don't give him too much time to think. Just let him get to the rim and he'll do good. But if he starts dribbling or pausing, he makes a lot of bad decisions. And, when you let an undrafted dude take your spot, then it's pretty much a bad sign. So that's going to be my disappointment.
Okay. Keith, what do you have for the Mavericks?
My surprise, and I'm happy to crow a little bit here about being right on this, was Harrison Barnes. He's been fantastic for them. And what's unfortunate now is we're hearing a lot of good stats, bad team guy, but I don't think there's anything to that. I think it's just, he was fine with Golden State. He just, instead of getting 10 shots a game, now he gets 15, 20 shots a game.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. So, he stepped up big time. What's disappointing is that the injuries have finally caught up to them. They have been able to weather that storm year over year for the past handful of seasons, and now this year it's finally all caught up to them. Just the lack of depth on the team behind the frontline guys is disappointing. And, in a lot of ways, this probably needed to happen because Mark Cuban's been on record that he won't tank as long as Dirk's on the team and won't go down that path, doesn't think that's the way to go. So the fact that it kind of naturally happened for them being manufactured is probably not the worst thing in the world.
It's a beautiful thing, Keith. I'm telling you, it's so beautiful knowing we might get a top 3 pick. Trust me, it's beautiful over here.
Yeah, especially in a point guard loaded draft when you're
Yes. Folks, Ball. There's a lot of players in this draft that I'm excited for.
Yeah. All right, Matt, you're up.
I'm with Keith. Harrison Barnes is the surprise. He's been great for them, and a guy that we questioned, a lot of us questioned, is this guy worth the max contract? What's he going to do? He's far, surpassed the expectations that I had. So, and indeed the disappointment, like Keith said, injuries, but I'm specifically going to go with Dirk. I just think it's sad that we haven't been able to see Dirk this year because he can still do some things. He can still give you the 17 points a game, even in 27, 28 minutes.
Yep.
And, he's still a fun guy to watch, It's just sad when the legends go out like this. That's what you don't want to see it.
Can I just add one thing about Dirk, Pete, about his injury?
Yo.
So pretty much, I'd at this point just shut him down. Like I've been saying, like Spurs did with David Robinson, so they could get Tim Duncan. Just shut Dirk down. It's an Achilles, scare. You do not want to mess it up any further. And he's already like 37, so just shut him down and let him finish out his contract next year. That's what I think about it.
Yep.
Absolutely. Mine was kind of exactly like yours, Lance. Justin Anderson, biggest disappointment. He's basically a fringe rotation player now trying to find his way in the NBA. He's struggling to find a rhythm overall, and Dorian Finney-Smith has just outplayed him. He's definitely my surprise because I didn't think he was going to make the team. To be honest, coming out of training camp, I was high on Nick Brusino, a little bit higher than I was on Dorian Finney-Smith. And Smith stepped up. In December, he's averaging 8.6 points a game, 4.3 rebounds, and, just hustling all around. So,
and I believe he has a multi-year contract, too. Like, I think they signed him earlier in the season, if I'm not mistaken.
Who's that, Finney-Smith?
Yeah, did he get a multi-year contract, right?
Yeah, he signed for this year and the next 2 years, fully non-guaranteed.
Sweet.
Okay. All right. Well, that's going to wrap us up as far as kind of going around the league. But before I close this out, I want to let everybody know about a huge announcement. We are very, very, very grateful to have been asked to be a part of 16 Wins a Ring. It's a writers and podcast network. Keith, you can kind of expand a little bit more on the writer side since you are obviously a big part of it.
Yeah, we're really excited. We're going to launch on December 22nd. 16winsaring.com comes from it takes 16 wins to win a ring in the NBA. So logical name there for us. We have put together a collection of talent across the NBA and writing world and podcasting world that we're really, really excited about. A lot of these people you've probably read some of their stuff and thought, wow, those are really smart points, and not necessarily realized who it was writing it. We've got people who, in a few years, you're going to see them writing for ESPN, The Ringer, Yahoo, places like that, just because that's how talented as a crew this group is. And then, with Unquestionably Raw, really excited to have you guys part of the family in the podcast network as we look to grow that. That's such an important part of all things basketball, is not just writing, but we get a lot of people that they don't have time to sit down and read, so they want to listen, on their commute or, as they're working out or doing chores around the house or whatever it may be. So really excited to have you guys part of the podcast network side of things, and can't wait for launch day, less than a week away now. December 22nd is when we're going to launch the site, and we'll have all kinds of great content up there right away and just keep building on it from there.
Absolutely. And Keith, we're very excited to have you as often as we can.
Absolutely.
You were kind of our honorary member, but now you're, officially part of the team as often as we can have you. And I'm grateful for you giving us a chance way back in September, and look how well it's turned out for all of us. So we are absolutely excited to move forward.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely thrilled to be a part of the team. Excited to be on with you guys as often as I can be when I don't have responsibilities covering a game somewhere, or my little one's basketball practices on Monday nights. Dad is always going to be my number one favorite job that comes first.
Mm-hmm.
It'll be at the top of that list. But no, I love coming on with you guys. Your stuff, passionate fans of the game. It's so fun to chat and hang out, just like we're hanging out in the family room with a game on in the background, just talking ball. So it's always a good time.
Absolutely. So basically,
and I want to throw out there, Pete.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Pete. I'll go after you finish up.
Go.
I was going to say, everybody be on the lookout Sunday. It's going to probably be during the evening because I've got an AAU tournament I'm going to on Sunday afternoon. But Byron and I will be doing our Star Wars Rogue One review. So everybody be on the lookout for that. I think y'all are going to like that one.
Yeah, we actually have a little side channel that's going to be a project, strictly movies. It's the Unquestionably Raw Entertainment network, and that'll strictly be like movie reviews and things like that. That kind of a little bit different, obviously, than sports. So look for that on YouTube. But please continue to go to iTunes and leave us a 5-star review with some written content as well. Let us know what we're doing well, maybe what we can improve on, what you'd like to see in the future. And then, of course, continue to go to YouTube. Check out all of our content there. Subscribe to both YouTube and iTunes, for all continued content. And then I want to let everybody know December 21st, we are going to do our first mailbag episode. We are excited about that. I'm going to end up throwing out another tweet that's got the hashtag on there. Keith's been gracious enough to throw it on Real GM, so check it out there. I've got it up on reddit.com. Fire all the questions you can. We'll get to as many as we can get to, in under about 45 minutes or so on December 21st. So that's going to wrap us up for this episode. Thank you so much for watching us, and for those that are listening as well. So thank you for the continued support, and we're only going to continue to do great things from here. So until next time, it's been the Unquestionably Raw podcast.